Hello everyone, this is John from RPGs and More, and in this episode I'd like to talk to you in a little more detail about White Box Dungeon Adventures by James Spahn. This is the current evolution of James Spahn's work that he's done with White Box. Originally with the Swords and Wizardry White Box game, and that's when he created the White Box Omnibus, which is one of my favorite products as far as White Box stuff goes, aside from Matt Finch's original White Box books. I enjoy Mr. Spahn's work so much that I actually have all of his other White Box PDFs from DriveThru printed out and bound into this nice book. So needless to say, I am a fan. I am a fan. I have been a fan for a long time. I've used his material to great effect, both for my own personal joy, but also for introducing children and young teens into the hobby. And that's where a lot of the work has shined. So to say that I have been following what he does is accurate. A few years ago, he did a Kickstarter for a book that finally was released, and that was the White Box Cyclopedia. I haven't talked about this too much except for when I showed it off I think I showed this off, but I haven't really talked about it. The White Box Cyclopedia, to me, is fantastic. If I was to pick a desert island book for playing like a D&D style game, if I had to pick a book that was like, I can only have one, and I want one book that's going to do everything, it would be a toss-up between White Box Cyclopedia and the Rules Cyclopedia for Dungeons and Dragons. And I'd probably pick the White Box Cyclopedia simply because it leans into Ascending Armor class, and it has some of the cool options that I really like. One of the things that it does is it focuses primarily on only the 20-sided die and 6-sided dice for mechanics. So you don't need to have a large variety of dice, but it also means you're not trying to teach people how to identify and use a large variety of dice. They can just get along fine with the two different types, and those are easy to tell apart at the table. For new people to the game, or for people that are just, playing casually, that's a lot easier to manage. What makes the White Box Cyclopedia special is that it includes a huge variety of information. Not only is it well over 24 classes and heritages available, meaning that the potential combinations are astronomical, but it also includes other additives for your campaign. If you want to have a campaign that focuses on more of a gothic horror type setting that includes things like dread and corruption, you've got rules for that. If you want to have a campaign that focuses on knightly honor and virtue, there are rules for that as well. If you want a campaign that focuses on the riddle of steel, if you will, the concept of that, then and what you saw in the original Conan movies, then there's some rules to help augment that. There's a huge collection of spells. There's a huge collection of magic items and treasure options. It's really got, and that's not even to touch on the massive selection of monsters. It really is a whole game system in one book. Yes, it's slightly larger than most of our little digest-sized books that we're used to. Not quite at a full-sized book. I have found that I I expected to not like the size that it's at because I thought it was going to be just a bit too large and not small enough. Turns out I'm wrong, and it works just fine. So good decisions were made. Fantastic. Well done, James. I salute you. All right. Why am I talking about that when this video is supposed to be about the Dungeon Adventures? Well, that's because White Box Dungeon Adventures is actually a concise version of the first 5 levels of several of the heritage and class combinations for the White Box Cyclopedia, condensed down into a form that is a lot more digestible as a here's your introduction into white box gaming. This rule set focuses primarily on just the dungeon adventure. It doesn't have rules for overland travel, it doesn't have rules for wilderness exploration in any way, shape, or form. It focuses entirely on how do you explore the dungeon. It keeps you to the pretty classic. You've got humans, elves, dwarves, and halflings. You also have fighters, clerics, and magic users. And that's it. You can make some combinations, but they really say that dwarves are fighters. Elves can choose to be either fighters or magic users each day, and whatever experience they earn for that day then gets to advance that class and is tracked separately for each one. So it's an interesting combination, and it's an interesting way to build the world. It has some interesting suggestions that I have been working on when I've been doing my solo play sessions. And that's what this has really been great for. For me to run my solo games for myself and have a good time with just enough rules to give me structure, but not enough that I get a little bogged down. Now, I have the White Box Cyclopedia on PDF on my phone. So when I'm going out and about, I tend to just reference that if there's something I need to look up that isn't included in the White Box Dungeon Adventure rulebook. And I'll be honest, there have been a couple times when I have done that, specifically when I wanted to check on the rules for corruption and dread. But I have found that this little book actually has some things in there that the Cyclopedia I haven't found inside there. So I think what happened is that Mr. Spawn, when he was putting this together, really wanted to create a hugely accessible starter rulebook. So he also includes a chapter on creating and stocking your dungeon using a sort of random dungeon creation system. Doesn't teach you how to make the rooms necessarily, just gives you a few basic explanations, and then advises that you find a map that you like, and then it teaches you how to stock the rooms and what all that means. It has a small bestiary inside this book that includes some of the more classic monsters that you kind of expect to be there in a dungeon. Again, we're focusing entirely on the dungeon. I have found so far, because my characters are all still first level, and with the way that they gain experience, I expect they'll be first level for a while. This book contains enough for me to get by with playing without necessarily needing to constantly consult the larger book. But I also know that larger book is there should I want to, which is kind of cool. The other thing is that recently Mr. Spawn released the White Box Dungeon Bestiary. This is a small form factor book, very, very small, very few pages. You can get it. I got this copy from Lulu. We're talking 26 pages. I got this copy from Lulu. It should be available on drive-thru as well at this point. And I would say that the only real difference between the Lulu print and the drive-through print, the Lulu print is stapled, and the drive-through print has that sort of more perfect binding that some of us are more used to. There's really no, excuse me, I don't really see an issue with either one. Both are fine. Both sit up nice at the table. Both look good on the shelf. So not really worried about that. You kind of just pick which one that you want to order from. I personally seem to have a slight preference for drive-through RPGs printed items, but that's only slight. Let's see. Oh, and as far as printing times go, I think Lulu might actually be slightly faster than drive-through. But it's, again, not by much, maybe a day or two. So really, it's kind of just not a big deal. You go with the printing service that you want to use and you want to support. All right. So why is this what I use? Well, it's what I use because of what I said earlier in the video. It's pretty compact. It's very easy to pick up and carry. Has all the rules that I want. And I have the larger rule cyclopedia to draw upon if there's something like, I brought a different monster. Well, I can check in there. I've got a lot of the monsters that I really like already tabbed. And I can just go right to those. Or I can just look through the pages and look for something that I don't normally get. The other thing that you can get is, for the Rule Cyclopedia, there is also the White Box Quarterly being released. So each quarter, Mr. James is releasing a small little magazine, if you will, or zine, of white box material. So far, there have been 2 issues released, and I look forward to the 3rd coming out, hopefully in the next few months. The 2 issues released so far have been relatively concise and with great topics. We've had new heritages, new classes that kind of focus on little specific areas, and there's been more material for adventures and things like that. The one thing that the White Box Cyclopedia does not have in it is a campaign setting. Now, there is an implied setting just by what monsters are there and the random monster tables if you want to use that. And it's the same with the dungeon adventures. There is an implied setting, but not an actual setting. So if you're the kind of person that really likes to have the 2 connected, then you'll have to get one extra thing. And I would recommend the White Box Omnibus. A lot of the material in the first half of this book is actually repeated in the White Box Cyclopedia. What is not repeated is the Willow Valley Gazette, along with 3 adventures: the Were Rat's Well, the Wizard's Tower, and the Dragon's Hoard. These 3 adventures, along with the Willow Valley Gazetteer, create a miniature campaign that has been my favorite thing to use to introduce new players to the game for several years now. I've used it to great effect when teaching Introduction to RPG courses for a summer school program that I have sometimes worked with. I've also used it for family games, and it's been pretty awesome every time. Every group that I've played with has focused on a different aspect of the module, especially the Were Rat's Well, and to good effect. So it's got a lot of legs there. If you aren't afraid to add or modify a few things in order to suit your personal tastes, then you're going to have a lot of game there. Now, more information is coming out in White Box Quarterly. A lot of the adventures that have been created in such a way that they could be inserted into Willow Valley or a setting very similar to that. And I hope, I have faith that in the coming years, Mr. Spawn will also release a more fleshed out Willow Valley as part of the White Box Cyclopedia supported line. And I think that covers all of it. So I've been using it to great effect. I've really enjoyed it. It is probably my favorite system for white box or OD&D style gaming at this time. It has been for a little while now. As soon as the Dungeon Adventure booklets were released this year, it was pretty much game over. That was the only one at this point because they fit in so nicely to the to the White Box Cyclopedia, and the White Box Cyclopedia is really just has been my favorite book for a while now because of just how many options are in there and how clean and easy it is to add and subtract things in order to kind of customize your own setup to make each campaign your own. So that's what I've been doing, that's what I've been using, and that's what I would recommend for people. But also, I'd like to hear what other people are using too. You know, if you're running a solo game and you're having success in running it for yourself, what kind of stuff are you using? Are you using something similar, or do you have a different system that's kind of your go-to? Do you like a crunchy system? Or do you like a light system? Or do you like a system that's even lighter than the ones that I've been talking about? I wouldn't mind hearing about that. If you wouldn't mind sticking a comment down below, that'd be great. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.